Hi, guys, and welcome back to Too Much. I don't know if you've noticed anything different about me, but I finally chopped off my fucking hair. I think I brought this up in episode 1 that I didn't want to be the girl with the bob with the podcast. But now I am. At least I started the podcast. I did the whole thing and I established myself a little bit. So it's not like my whole character. It's not my whole personality, but it's kind of starting to be. I won't lie. I'm like very obsessed with it. And all of the outfits I've worn over the last 2 weeks have been like French girl chic and just very like I don't know. Anyways, that's my update. Also, I'm pretty sure there might be an episode launching before this, but if you've seen it already, you know why I didn't start off on the note of me talking about my hair, but now I wanted to bring it up. Anyways, today I'm going to do another Ask Emma. I think it's been about like 7 episodes since the very first one. So I think that might be the cadence going forward. It's going to be like every 7 episodes, we'll have a little Q&A. Anytime you guys write into me and ask questions, I'm banking them. So even if you don't hear it right away, it will eventually end up in one of these Ask Emma episodes. And yeah, let's go down the rabbit hole, shall we? Per usual, no rhyme or reason to these questions. It's everything that you guys have just been asking me. There's no theme. They're going to be all over the place. So let's start off with the first one. Okay. It says, relationship question. How do I maintain my independence while in a relationship? I have a bad habit of relying on my happiness to come from my partner, which is unhealthy and unrealistic. But I struggle with maintaining that boundary. Tips and advice. Love you and the pod so much. All my love. Jay. I don't know if I'm supposed to say the name, but there's no name. It just says Jay. Well, Jay, this is something that I always struggled with, to be honest. I was the girl that disappeared when she got a boyfriend. And I would date the guy for, I don't know, my relationships were never that long. So it was like 3 months to 9 months. And then I would just come out of the woodworks to my friends again and be like, hey guys, it's me, I'm back. And that did not go over well. What I realized is that friends is really where it begins with having your independence in a relationship. Because effectively that's, your life that you had before, that you've established and you've created. And then you start dating someone and you guys create a life together. But he probably has his friends, you have your friends. I'm assuming this is a hetero relationship, but this applies to all relationships. I do feel typically guys have an easier time like keeping their lives pre you. And then girls, we're kind of, we're the nurturers. We're the ones who are like, I want to be with you all the time. I want to do everything with you. And you kind of like latch on to their life rather than coexisting together. At least this is what I did. I don't know. I don't want to speak too generally, but I always got in a really bad habit of that. And then when the relationship would end, I was fucked because I spent no time nurturing my own life. And I think a healthy relationship is one where you can progress in both the relationship and your individual lives at the exact same time, simultaneously. For me, in my past relationships, I had a fear that if I did not put all of my energy into them and I placed it anywhere else, I might lose them. If I'm not with them this one day, they may realize they're not in love with me, run off with someone else, or realize, oh, she kind of sucks and she's not in the room, whatever it may be. So I would always be there and I would always be putting energy into it. But you will come to the realization that you are in a healthy relationship and a relationship that you should be in when you do not have that fear, where there's no fear of the consequence of not putting 100% of your energy into it. There's no question of what would happen if I don't, and no insecurity about it. You know that if you go out with your friends and do your own thing, they're still going to love you. You're still feeling that love from another room and you still love them the same. That's a strong relationship. So I think that was a long-winded answer, but I think my answer is twofold. It's number one, you'll know you're in a good relationship, one worth fighting for, a healthy relationship, if there isn't the fear of keeping your independence and you feel comfortable doing so. Now, there's ways to also make sure that you're doing this, and that would be prioritize time with your friends, schedule time with your friends, make sure, once a month you guys are getting together, make sure once a week, you're seeing at least one of them in some capacity, whether it's coffee or a workout class or dinner, drinks, whatever. I think that's super, super important. And then also just like still spending time with yourself alone outside of the time that you spend with your partner. Because ultimately, it can become very mundane and you could get fatigued. I mean, even if someone is your soulmate and the person you're supposed to be with for the rest of your life, like, I don't know. There's times where Mr. Right and I are just, it's winter and we're in the apartment for a week straight. He's working from home. I'm working from home. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I just need to remove myself from this to kind of reset, recalibrate, and get back to me. That's super important to do. And you don't even realize you need it until you do it. So just like make sure you're scheduling that time as well. And yeah, I think those are my two best tips. Schedule time with your friends and with yourself. And if you're not afraid to, then you got a good partner. But if you do have that little anxiety of like, what's he thinking? What's he doing while we're not together? I'd rethink the relationship or just assess it. Next question. I wanted to ask a question pertaining back to your story of the hyperindependence. Have you, since learning about this, been painted in a light of being the toxic one in the relationship? Or can you be perceived as the toxic one because you have this trigger response of being hyperindependent? Great fucking question. I've actually never thought about this until just now. I would say this relationship with Mr. Right is the first one that I've been in where my hyperindependence is a part of the conversation. With every relationship that I was in before, I didn't even know that I was hyperindependent. I just thought, I don't know, I just thought that's the way I was, that I could do everything myself. I don't need help. I can't rely on anyone. I didn't realize the consistencies, the patterns, and how it was like affecting me as a person. And I never knew it had a name. So I was also never able to communicate that to my partners. I was never able to say, hey, this is something I've struggled with in the past. And if this comes up, this is why. So they probably always thought I was crazy or a bitch or just, they were probably just confused. I think it's easy to label people as a negative if you don't know their triggers or if you don't know their past traumas and things like that. I always explain things that happened to me in the past to my partners, but I was never able to articulate how much it was affecting me today and in what ways, why, and how I'm working on it. So this relationship now that I'm in, I've been able to tell him, hey, I'm a very hyper independent person. He's extremely understanding and he gets that and he wants to work through it with me. So I think to answer your question, maybe I've been labeled as toxic in the past, but also the guys I've been with are really toxic. So it's like lesser of two evils, maybe. If I'm owning it and taking accountability, like, yeah, maybe there were things that they deemed as toxic as far as me not being able to accept help, me kind of pushing them away when they tried to. But this one now where we're talking about it and I am the hyper independent one, I don't think I'm looked at as toxic. I hope not. But I think more it's a hurdle that we have to get over together. And if anything, it's more me that's putting blame on myself and saying that I am the one with baggage. Granted, like Mr. Right is like practically perfect in every way. So I do sit there and say to myself, like, I'm the fucked up one and I'm the one that has a lot to work through. I'm like, am I even answering your question? I need to recalibrate there. Yeah, I guess that was your question. I think in the past I could have been perceived as toxic because I didn't have the ability to explain what I was going through and why I was thinking this way and what happened to me in the past to get me to this place. But that's kind of blanket advice for any relationship and any sort of trauma response that you have. As long as you can articulate it and communicate it to your partner and let them know and give them the tools of how to better communicate and work with you in the relationship, then there's less of a chance you're going to be looked at as toxic. There's less of a chance that there will be any sort of negative connotation on you because you're just owning it and you're taking accountability and you're saying, here's my shit. Do you want to work on it with me? Like, do you want to do this? Because I have to work on it. And that's what it's going to take to make this a strong relationship. So my advice is if you feel you're hyper independent, figure out why, communicate that to your partner, and you can't fault someone for trying to work on their shit. Everyone's got baggage. We're all trying to just work through it. Okay, next question. How to set goals for yourself? Vision board, timeline goals, 5-year plan, etc. So, fun fact, and maybe you would not have assumed this about me, but I am not a person who writes down my goals and makes plans, vision boards, 5-year plans. No, I don't do any of that, which probably seems very out of character for me because I'm so fucking type A and I have lists on lists on lists about everything. But it's like what I talked about in the redirection episode. A plan rarely works out the way that we intend it to or the way that we want it to. You can make plans until you're blue in the fucking face. But ultimately, things ebb and flow so quickly, at least in my life. You're better off fine tuning the skills it takes to ebb and flow and to adapt and to pivot than you are to build planning skills. I encounter so many obstacles that there's no point to me in writing down plans because then I'll go back to it in 6 months and be like, well, that fucking like doesn't even matter anymore. So to me, I verbalize my intentions a lot. And I don't really call them dreams because that seems far-fetched to me and it seems like something that's unattainable. And instead I call them intentions and I'm like, this is what I will do. And I think flipping that wills it into existence more. Like my to-do list for the podcast of all of the little steps that I'm going to take to get to my end goal, I titled it Total World Domination. And that's how big I make them feel. And I think and act in a way where it's like I already know the outcome. I'm going to conquer the world. Here's what I'm going to do to get there. Like that. I guess that's how I do it. Instead of making like 5-year plans, 3-year plans, it's always just kind of that end goal to me. Next question. Okay, I had this person write into my Instagram and I did actually like give her a little bit of an answer on Instagram because it felt like a timely matter question, but I told her I would also answer it here. So here's what she asked. Hi, just started listening to you and I'm obsessed. Having a hard time going through a friendship breakup. More like family, we've been best friends for 20 plus years. Dealing with that and also trying to not have my feelings hurt. We have mutual friends, one of whom I'm also best friends with, and they are both close with each other and continue to hang out and talk. Is it immature of me to want the mutual friends to pick sides, or how do I navigate this whole situation? Any advice would help so much. Also, hope all that makes sense. It makes sense. And no, that is not immature. That is completely natural to want everyone around you to take your side, rally with you, validate your feelings about that person. But I think what could be immature or naive is to actually expect them to take sides. Because unfortunately, you can't control what anyone does. And the more you try to, the more they're going to pull away and rebel against whatever you are asking them to do. That's just kind of inherent human nature. And you also don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and like dig your hole deeper in this friendship breakup of like, not only are we not friends anymore, but now I'm going to try and get everyone against you. Because that just does not look good on you. You will be the bigger person if you can just like isolate what happened between the two of you, continue to be friends with your friends and like wish her well kind of a thing. Just if they talk about her, don't get all pissy and rude and moody because then they're not going to bring things up. They're not going to be honest and forthcoming with you. They might not invite you to things that she's at. Like the best thing you could do is be the bigger person, hold your head up high and just like show that it doesn't affect you, even though it really does. You just kind of have to handle the situation with grace, unfortunately, when you have mutual friends. This happened to me when I was 22. There was 3 of us. We were like best friends. And one of them just kind of ghosted me and stopped being my friend. And luckily, the other one that I stayed friends with and she stayed friends with, she never really picked sides. She was really bummed about it too. She was like, this just sucks. Like, I miss it being the 3 of us. And I never really talked shit to her about the girl that stopped being my friend, but I definitely like vented to her because that's within my right. She's still my best friend. And she was really understanding and she was just, like I said, it made her sad. I always tried to keep it like, I don't want to say like, what was me, but like I was just upset about the whole thing. And when she would talk about her or being with her, I would just be like, oh, cool. And it fucking killed me inside. But what are you going to do? You can't force someone to be your friend. Can't force other people to not be friends with them. But at the same time, I will say on the flip side of things, if someone does something really terrible to you and the people that you're close with still stay friends with them, a bit of a red flag to me because it's like, how could you continue being friends with someone who hurt me so badly? But again, it's a very like nuanced thing. It's like, well, they didn't do anything to me. Classic. But I would just respect their decisions and try to hold your head up high, maybe deprioritize this friend group if they're spending all their time with her, and time will tell. Like, you have to see how this pans out. Maybe she's going to do something to them and they're not going to want to be friends with her anymore. And you don't want to have burned that bridge so that when that does happen, you're not friends with any of them anymore. And the whole group is falling apart, you know? So kill them with kindness, kill everyone with kindness. That's the best weapon of mass destruction. Okay, next question. Advice on how to ask your boyfriend about his past relationships. It's hard to bring it up. Yes, it is hard. This is another one of those things where it's like, if you're with the right person, it shouldn't be uncomfortable to ask them and to bring it up. I think the key is to manage your reactions to it. The only reason they won't want to talk about it is if they don't feel like it's a safe space to. So if you are able to hone in on your emotions and make it a light conversation, just like, when was your last girlfriend? What was she like? Where was she from? Just like kind of curious questions. You don't need to interrogate them or anything. If you manage how you're reacting, you can be like, oh, that's cool. And she sounds really nice, or she sounds awful. And I'm really sorry you went through that. You know, those are kind of the responses you can have to like make them feel like it's okay. Also, you could ask them if they are comfortable talking about it, or if they want to know about your past relationships. That's kind of a way you can open the door. It's been both ways for all of my past relationships. I've had some guys who refused and would get like really fucking worked up if I talked about an ex. And then I would have other guys who would just like constantly talk about their ex. And when people constantly talk about their ex and bring them up when it's unnecessary, I get really bothered. I would assume most people would. So in that case, I remember being like, do you still have feelings for her? Like, what the fuck is going on? But I think it's an important thing when you're in the early stages of a relationship to like understand what the past relationship landscape looked like. Was there heartbroken? Did they cheat on someone? Like, I've asked guys that when we're out drinking and I'm like, have you ever cheated on someone? Have you ever been cheated on? That's really important to know, because that's how you can gauge their character, what kind of a person they are. So definitely try to initiate that conversation. You shouldn't be completely in the dark and not know. I mean, Mr. Right does not love to hear about my past relationships, especially because like he kind of knows two of my exes. So it's like a little uncomfy for him. But like I gauged it early on that like he didn't love to hear about it because he's protective and he loves me. He doesn't want to envision me with someone else. And that's ultimately what happens when a guy is uncomfortable hearing about it. But it's a little bit of insecurity that I think they need to work on. So try doing it over drinks. Also, there's like that game We're Not Really Strangers, and there's a lot of questions in there that have to do with past relationships. That could be a really great icebreaker because it's like, it's not me, it's the card that's asking. I would never ask you. But now that we've brought it up, one of those. Next question. How to stop caring about other people's opinions. Much easier said than done. One of my favorite quotes is, a lion does not lose sleep over the opinions of a sheep. I was just going to hit you with like literally another quote. But yeah, opinions. Oh my God, I have so many quotes going through my head right now. Why am I like this? I was literally just going to say opinions are like assholes and everybody's got one from Salt and Pepper. And then also, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Like, they are just fucking words. I don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks about me. But here is my caveat. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I brought it up in my last episode that was about the unhinged breakup. I have no problem with what anyone wants to say about me as long as it's true. Because if I fucking got too drunk one night and made a fool of myself at a bar and everyone wants to talk shit about me and say how stupid I looked, that's fine. I probably did look stupid and I did get drunk at the bar. Like, whatever. Sue me. But if someone's forming an opinion on a lie about me or on gossip, that is when I have a problem. And that is when it ultimately gets to me, and probably when it would get to anyone. But at the same time, if it's fucking Dick, Joe, or Harry, I always fuck that up. Dick, Joe, and Larry in your town that's saying something about you, like, who gives a fuck? The only reason that they're talking about you is because when they talk about themselves, nobody cares. Nobody listens. So they're bringing you up. And that's a compliment. Flip the script. Stop caring. No one's opinion matters but your own, what you think of yourself and how you feel about yourself. How they feel about you is just a reflection of their own insecurities and a projection of how they feel about themselves. And that has nothing to do with you. Let it go. It's like Mel Robbins always says, let them. God, fucking that woman. Those 2 words. All right. Couple more questions. Is forgiving but never forgetting the right motto? Yeah, I would say that is the right motto. I think we're too old. Well, I don't know how old you are, but I'm too old to hold a grudge. I'm too tired, and life is too fucking short to hold grudges. But there is a big difference between holding a grudge and not forgetting what someone has done to you, because their actions should help you frame what they are, who they are to you. So if they stabbed you in the back, if there was a betrayal, you can forgive them. That's okay. But you should never forget. You can forgive them if you want to release that energy that it takes to hold on to this. You can forgive them if you're just like, that upset me back then, but it really doesn't mean much to me now. I can move on from that. I've had that. One of my worst friendship breakups when I was 26 years old. Back then, it fucking ruined me. It broke my heart. And I thought I would never forgive her. But she actually just came back into my life. And I'm like, yeah, I do forgive you. I won't forget. I'll keep it in the back of my mind in case there's ever like a little red flag again. It's kind of like, okay, well, this is to be expected. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So if you forgive, just remember what they did. You don't have to forget about it. I wouldn't forget about it because then who's the naive one? But you can forgive. Don't hold grudges. Grudges are like, have you ever seen the fucking horror movie The Grudge? Their grudges are scary as shit. And it's just going to make you lose energy. And that is valuable energy that you should be putting towards something else. Not this person that was a fucking idiot and did something to you. Okay, this is my last question. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't want you to turn off the podcast. But next question. How to not feel like you're rushing from one thing to the next. I'm grateful, but lately I'm feeling overwhelmed. I feel you, girl. I am the same way. I am always go, 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 go. I think my best advice would be you need to take time to celebrate your own wins because it is so easy to overlook your wins because you yourself are setting your bar higher each time. You're like, okay, I got to this. What's the next rung on the ladder? And then you don't even take a minute to realize that you just crossed the line that you once thought was a finish line. And now you're realizing that it was just a mile marker. That was a really good fucking quote. I just came up with that. But seriously, you have to celebrate your wins, the small ones. Take time to reflect and realize how far you've come because that is what will keep you going. That is what can reassure you that you will reach the next mile marker. Well, I've come this far. I could do it again. I got that job. I can get another one. I started that podcast, made it successful. I can start this one and make it successful. Celebrate your wins and take a minute to process. If you're, a visual person or someone who likes to write things down and make a list or something, like gratitude journals could be really great. So, I have an idea. Maybe you can start like a Go Me jar. Just get a jar, put Go Me on it. And every time you have a win, even if you're in a rush to get to the next one, write it down, put it in the jar. And then anytime you're feeling low or feeling burnt out, go through the jar and read your wins and be like, oh, fuck yeah, I did do that. Oh yeah, I did do that. And I bet you it'll light a fire under your ass. I'm not sure because I've never done it, but I'm probably going to start doing it. And I'll let you know if you don't. Anyways, guys, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for writing in, for tuning in. Please send more questions. I love doing these. These are all on the fly. I get them from Instagram and write them in my phone, but that's the only time I see them. I don't really think about them beforehand. I don't try to come up with answers. So this is kind of like a fun little game for me. And I love games. So write in. You can either write to my personal Instagram, Life of Emma page, or the podcast Instagram, Emma's Too Much. There's also a form at the link in bio where you can do a Google Forms and you can do a whole long story if you would like. There's also a file drop if you want to ever put receipts in, screenshots, any of that. And yeah, follow, subscribe, comment, 5 fucking stars, please. It helps a girl out. That's all. I will see you next week.